Hey there, it's Jim and Debbie with another episode of the Midday Minute. Debbie, this is episode 43. They're piling up.
They really are. Golly, 43.
So, do you know what happens at the end of this month or at the end of this week? October comes to a close.
It
Right?
sure does.
Just a few days left in October, which means there are just 2 months left, essentially, to apply for our CIP grants, to take advantage of that huge grant offer this year.
Right. December 31st.
On today's episode, Katie Graves and Meaghan Morris from the CIP department are going to join us to motivate you to apply. And then I'm going to share some pretty cool CIP metrics with y'all.
Y'all.
But first, we have not one, but 2 contest winners to announce.
Yeah, we do. So without further ado, I'd like to announce our comment contest winner for episode 42. I can't remember the title of that episode. You did say baseball is dead to me, but
I did. It was all about the Fidelity Club.
right. Well, the contest winner is Dana Miller. Congratulations, Dana.
Now,
thanks for commenting.
For those of you who think I have some input as to who wins these contests, this is all you need to know. Dana Miller is a Cub fan. And she still won. So it's possible. Anybody can win this thing. All you have to do, but I mean, you can only win if you comment on the episode. You have a chance on this episode if you comment with the hashtag ENF Midday. You too will be entered into a drawing to win a $50 soft credit for the ENF funded program of your choice. Dana, we're going to need you to tell us either in the comments below or by emailing enf@elks.org how you would like us to apply that $50 soft credit. Which ENF program would you like to support with that soft credit? And congratulations. And I hope the Cubs lose next year too. We also had another contest in last week's episode as part of the Fidelity Feed, which is a special e-newsletter that goes out to members of our Fidelity Club, the monthly giving club. They were told to go out and check out the episode, which was all about their club, and to comment with the hashtag Fidelity Feed, which is the name of that newsletter, to win either their choice, ENF swag or a $50 soft credit. Their choice.
Ooh.
And the person who gets to choose is?
One, Mr. Stephen Wagstaff.
Stephen Wagstaff, longtime fan of the foundation and our stuff. Big follower of ours on Facebook, shares everything, which we appreciate. Stephen, congrats. Let us know either in the comments below or by emailing enf@elks.org if you like the soft credit or would rather have some ENF swag, such as a cool polo. All right?
Yeah. Congratulations,
okay.
Everybody.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we, let's before we bring out Katie and Meaghan, I thought maybe we could give a quick primer about the CIP. I suspect most of our listeners know what it is, but if you'll indulge me, I'm going to just share my screen here. And
Here we go.
you see it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and here we go. The CIP is, it's our largest program now. A lot of people don't realize that. It is a $14.6 million program, right?
Right.
Here we've got, we made some revisions to the CIP this year because we're going through a pandemic. In the time of COVID, we needed to adapt so that our lodges could serve their communities safely. And here we've got a picture from Port Townsend Lodge in Washington State. They're all masked up, which is good to see. They used their Beacon grant to support meal programs run by the Kiwanis and the YMCA. And the reason they do that, Debbie, is Elks always care.
Yes, they do. There's a hashtag right there.
Say right there. All right. The CIP, it wasn't always such a large program. It debuted in July of 2005. 15 years ago with a modest budget of just $350,000. And it has grown more than 4,000% since in those 15 years. Today, it's 14.6 million. You can see it's increased almost every single year.
Yep.
Right?
It's so impressive. And
go ahead.
It's so impressive. And to think when we started it back in FY06, right? We thought 350,000 was a lot. Right, to get this started.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was a lot back then.
Right.
But it's our trustees really believed in what the lodges were doing with those grants, and they just, they put our money where your mouth is, I guess, right? Why the SIP? Well, we want to help lodges build stronger communities. Our mission is to help Elks build stronger communities, and investing in your lodge communities and giving you the resources to do big things in your communities helps us achieve our mission. We also believe that we can build stronger communities while at the same time building stronger lodges. The SIP helps us help you raise your profile in the community in ways that will energize your membership, that will attract people who want to be part of an organization that's doing big things, like prospective new members or former members who want to return to the fold.
Mm-hmm.
Walla Walla Washington Lodge. I did a presentation last week for the good people in Washington State, and so I'm grabbing some of that from that presentation. But Walla Walla Lodge recently donated first aid kits and other essential supplies to the area's Stand Down for Homeless veterans. They're doing big things in the community, right? And we think that can only benefit the lodge. And a lot of people ask, like, what do you need to get involved? Well, you need at least one motivated, enthusiastic volunteer. Like these two folks from Sitka, Alaska Lodge. You can't get more motivated than these two guys. Just take a look. Am I right?
Well,
they donated nutrition.
Smizing behind their mask.
Behind the mask, they're all smiles, I'm sure.
Right.
Sitka Lodge donated nutritious snacks to 5 area schools for distribution to at-risk students. Great idea. So you need at least one motivated volunteer to sort of quarterback the project. You need an idea, an unmet need in your community and an idea for meeting that need. You want to build a consensus at your lodge, because what we don't want to do is be funding pet projects for individual lodge members. We could probably do a whole episode of The Minute at some point about why pet projects aren't great ideas. And maybe we'll do that sometime in the future. Right now, just take our word for it. You need the lodge to get behind the project, and then you need an action plan. And that's really all you need. Now, I'm sure I've convinced our viewers that they want to get involved. At this point, we're going to bring Katie and Meaghan in from the SIP to motivate you guys to get involved with this program. There's Katie and there's Meaghan. Welcome to the Midday Minute, guys.
Hi, I'm so glad to be back.
Glad to have you back.
Abby, turning it over to you.
Yeah, well, we are so happy to have you today on the Midday Minute because, as Jim said at the outset of the episode, it's a little more than 2 months to the deadline, right, of December 31st. And everybody in the SIP office has been working so incredibly hard to review and approve grants. So we wanted to take a few minutes to hear what you guys have been doing and to talk through a couple of your favorite, pandemic-friendly projects, and then give some helpful hints and tips on how to motivate lodges who have yet to apply. Now, you're going to go through the numbers of approval. So there are so many lodges that have already applied and have been approved to get their projects, going in their communities. But there are still some that haven't, and that's why we wanted to talk to you guys today. Yeah. So Meaghan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on? The Beacon grant was the last of the grant components. We'll put the impact grants to the side for now, that got launched in August. So why don't you tell us where we're at and some of your favorite projects?
Sure. So with the Beacon grant, as Debbie mentioned, we launched it on August 1st. So it's been open for a couple months. And in those couple months, we have approved 762 Beacon grants, which is just incredible. And I'm so happy about that. Some of my favorite grants that we've had, we had Burlington, Iowa, lodge number 84. So something I liked about this is that they adapted their usual Beacon grant project in order to fit the times. So instead of doing an active project where they had a safety fair and went over smoke detectors and CO detectors, as well as providing them for people in their community, they did a drive-through event where they had people come to their lodge. They provided them with smoke detectors and CO detectors, CO2 detectors, excuse me. And they worked with their fire department to distribute education materials to teach their community how to set up these detectors, how to make sure they're active, so working. And actually, they said that they have recorded 2 lives saved because of this partnership. So there was 2 fires that in their community that was able to be put out because of these detectors,
Oh, nice.
which is just amazing. So as I said, they adapted it this year to do a drive-through, which is what we're encouraging lodges to do. If you're unable to do your active project, but you still want to do something active, we would recommend what Sparta, New Jersey, lodge number 2356 has called the Stop, Drop, and Roll delivery. So we would recommend that you get, you shop online for supplies, you work in groups separately around your houses, and put supplies together and donate those to organizations quickly and safely. This is something that Newport, Kentucky, lodge number 273 did with their project. So they noticed in their community a lot of children, especially those in low income situations, are really needing some help with their mental health. And so they reached out to the Family Resource Center, which is an organization in their community that deals with students in low mental health, and they're creating these mental health kits. So they'll be distributing them and dropping them off at individual people's homes. So I thought that was really wonderful.
Wow, great. You'll hear us talk throughout not only the episode when we hear about Katie's favorite gratitude grants too, but we've been using pivot and adaptation, right, or adapting a lot when we talk about our grants. So most of our middies probably know, but if you don't, in the past, Beacon grants were always intended to be active projects. So they required Elks involvement in order to be approved. They also were something that we wanted to be, it was an ongoing project. It was a project that the lodge was known for in its community. So when we released the Beacon grants back in August, we said, we're going to step back from those requirements and we're going to be more flexible. We want you to be able to meet the needs of your community by, meeting the needs of what COVID has presented, right? So there's been the ability to donate those grants this year, correct?
Exactly.
As long as you're working with the organization that they used to partner with, or an organization that's is executing on COVID relief, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so far, I think right now it's up to 58% have been using it for just food donations. So donations to food pantries, which is just incredible and definitely something that your community needs. So if you're thinking about applying, apply and donate that for like a food.
And if you do pivot your project this year to do something, do COVID relief or whatever, it doesn't mean that's a forever decision. You can always go back to doing what you used to do.
Exactly.
When it's do that.
Right, and in reviewing the projects, as both Katie and Meaghan can attest to, especially obviously with the Beacon grants, but the gratitude grants too, there's a lot of prefacing where the grants coordinator will say, in the past we used to do this, but due to COVID, we're not going to be able to do that this year. We're going to do, whatever it is, donating to the food pantry or whatnot. And I think we've talked a lot about this on the minute, but food insecurity is something everybody has read about, and some staggering statistics about that. Like 1/3 of all U.S. families and children are suffering from food insecurity right now because of the pandemic. So Katie, what have you been seeing with the gratitude grants? And again, we're celebrating a milestone here today.
Yes, so this morning we hit 1,000 gratitude grants approved. I think we're at 1,001 now. But a huge milestone. It opened up in April. So by October to have 1,000 is really awesome. And 100.
Katie, am I correct that last year we had around 1,300, 1,279 or something like that gratitude grants approved last year?
I think so, maybe
roughly.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we already have 140 applications that have been started. So I'm looking forward to those getting submitted so that I can take a look at them and get those lodges some grant funds so that they can do some work in their community. But as Meaghan and Debbie were both saying, we're really encouraging lodges to do projects that are safe, that are socially distanced, and if that's not a possibility, to make a donation to an organization in need. So some of my favorite grant projects that I'd like to highlight, kind of going off of the food insecurity that we were talking about just a couple minutes ago. I recently approved Bound Brook, New Jersey Lodge number 1388's gratitude grant. And they're working with an organization that they've worked with for years in the past called Middle Earth. But instead of doing an active project this year where they've got lots of people coming and going, they're going to be providing families in need with meal kits. A lot of times when families go to food pantries or food banks, they just get a box of food, and there's really no rhyme or reason necessarily to what they're getting. And it can be kind of hard to put together meals with that. But with the meal kit, the families are going to be getting a box full of the ingredients with a recipe to make the meal. And the lodge is really going a step further, and they're doing a virtual family night along with that. So while the families are cooking together and eating their dinner, they're going to be having an online virtual trivia night. And when a family wins, they get a prize and it gets delivered to them. So I really love that they're making meal distribution fun, and they're making sure that the families get what they need to provide like a well-rounded, healthy meal for their family. So I really love that one. And then something kind of going off of a donation. I really like Elizabethton, Tennessee Lodge number 1847's gratitude grant. They're using their gratitude grant to donate to a local domestic violence shelter. And as is the case with domestic violence shelters across the country, when quarantine started, the shelters were overcrowded because people were in need of those services. So they donated their funds to the shelter, but the lodge really went above and beyond, and they used their talents that they had as a lodge, and they helped them install a new security system. They did it free of charge. They replaced some ceiling tiles because some lodge members had experience doing that, updated fire extinguishers, things like that. So they found a way to do it actively, that they were there and they were helping out hands-on, but they did it in a safe way where they weren't necessarily face-to-face with the clients, and they weren't talking to people and endangering anyone or themselves, but they were able to get in there and do some really great work with the organization.
Wow, those are wonderful examples of what lodges are doing to meet the needs of their communities, given in the face of a pandemic. I'll bring us all the way back to, late March, right? As you mentioned, the gratitude grants launched on April 1st, right? It's the first day of our fiscal year. But it was really kind of our first opportunity to really get our minds around what we were dealing with, right? We've talked probably almost every episode of the Midday Minute. We have kind of gone back to what happened in mid-March and canceling the hoop shoot, regional contest, the finals. But really, the rubber really met the road on April 1st when we were able to say, here is $3.7 million for gratitude grants. And, for however many years, many years, we've been saying, if you wanted to donate, we're going to come back to you and we're going to say, well, you really want to do that because an active project is better, right? It's better for you as a lodge. And we completely talk about a pivot, right? We pivoted to address what was going on with the pandemic so that lodges can continue to do what Elks do, right? Elks always care.
But we'll get into some of the reasons why we prefer active projects in a moment.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Right now, what is paramount is the needs of the people in Elks communities who are hurting. And
right.
That's what's important to us, is we want to make sure that lodges can meet those needs and that they can do it safely. And all these other goals of ours and metrics that we're going to share, and the reasons we encourage active projects, that stuff can wait until next year or the year after. Exactly.
And we talked so much about that, right? So we were able to do that in April. Then we got the spotlight grants out there on June 1st, right? And lodges are able to add a spotlight grant to their beacon grant now if they hadn't applied for the spotlight grant. And they can even include supersizing with the gratitude grant. So there's been quite a few lodges that have received $7,500 or $8,000 even to do one project.
Yep. Yeah. There's, I think, over a dozen of those. And then over 100 right now of lodges that merge their spotlight grant into their beacon.
Great.
Well, and the CIP has just been such a huge shot in the arm, I think, not just for Elks communities, obviously, but for the Elks, because especially when you think back to the spring, in March, we made the decision to cancel the hoop shoot. We pivoted, there's the word again, to the virtual leadership weekend. And lodges were closing and the Elks they were sidelined, right? And then April 1st hits and we make all that money available. And even from the relative safety of the sidelines, the Elks were still able to make a difference in their communities thanks to the SIP.
Right. Yep.
Anything else for these guys, the CIPsters?
CIPsters, if lodges want to find out, for those lodges who haven't yet applied, where should they go?
You should go to elks.org/CIP, as in Community Investments Program. We have so much information. You could spend a day on there looking at all the information we have for you. But I just want to say that it has never been more easy to apply for grants, and it's never been more needed. So please apply if you haven't already. If you know anyone who hasn't applied and they're a little weird about applying for grants, now's the time to do it and get to step their toe into the water and see how they like it.
And
How much are
Katie,
Beacon grants worth this year, Meaghan?
Beacon grants are worth $3,500.
And gratitude grants up to?
3,000.
right.
A lot of money. And then the $2,000 spotlight grant. I mean, that's,
Exactly.
possibility of $8,500, which can make a big difference in your community.
Huge. All right. And Katie, if somebody is like concerned about actually how to have a safe COVID-friendly project, where can they go?
They can contact us if they need any guidance. We're available by email or phone. Otherwise, there are guidelines on our website under our CIP resources. You can find the COVID safe guidelines, and those give you a nice guideline of how to carry out a safe project if you have any questions.
For sure.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us on the show and for motivating the troops, and get back to approving grants.
That's right. Keep up the good work, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. So I guess I'd like to share some neat metrics with our viewers.
Okay.
I'll try to run through these kind of quickly because I think we're going a little long on this episode. It's important stuff. But let me go back to my presentation here. All right.
Yes.
All right. Check out these key performance indicators. This is for the 2020 grant year. The value to our partner organizations for every $1,000 we granted last year was $2,634.59. That's because of you, our viewers, the Elks. They increase the value of our grants because our grants come with volunteers attached. Now this is a standard year, 2021 is not. So we expect these metrics to take a little bit of a hit.
Right.
And that's okay, because for all the reasons we just talked about. But, a grant with volunteers attached is always better than a straight donation. Every $1,000 we granted last year put 9 Elks volunteers in the field, and those 9 Elks performed 64 hours of service. There's a value to that, and that value is calculated every year by the independent sector, and that's how we're arriving at these figures. And then also the percent of participating lodges that received at least one grant last year, that reported that they gained new members because of the SIP, 46%. So almost half of the lodges participated told us that they gained new members directly because of the SIP. That's a pretty compelling reason to get involved.
Absolutely. I mean, those are really impressive numbers.
Right. I mean, we're proud of our grants. We're proud of our active approach to service. And nevertheless, we were willing to set that, to really stress, like, donations are okay this year. We totally get that. And what's most important this year is that that our volunteers stay safe. Right?
Exactly. I was going to just say the safety and well-being of our volunteers and the community members obviously is paramount, but that we saw that from the outset, right? And we were able to say, we're committed to letting Elks be Elks in certain communities, and we're going to obviously.
But as a talking point, I think it's important for our viewers to understand that our grants come with volunteers attached, and those volunteers more than double the impact of our grants. Right? That's huge. Okay. Take a look at this. This chart here goes back to the origins of the Beacon Grant component of the CIP in the 2013 fiscal year. And for each year since, through 2019, we look at two groups. The green are lodges that earned a Beacon Grant, that applied for and got a Beacon Grant. And the blue are the lodges that didn't. And this is looking at the total population, membership population for those lodges. And it's tracking percent change over in that in membership for that population. And the membership we're always looking at is the next year. So the 2019 grant year, we're looking at the 2020 membership results. And you can see in every single year, the group of lodges that used Beacon Grants had better membership results than the lodges that didn't use Beacon Grants. And in the past 3 years, they posted gains.
Right. I mean, it speaks to the slides that you were going over earlier, right?
Right.
It should energize people to,
Absolutely.
continue to pay their dues, to feel really
right. That Beacon Grants are supposed to fund the project for which your lodge is going to be known in the community. And if you pick a good project and something that's needed in your community, it's going to excite people, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are proud of they want to be proud of what their lodge is doing, right?
Right.
And that it's meeting a need in the community. And people who aren't Elks want to be Elks when they see an organization that's fulfilling an important need.
Right.
Now, there could be other reasons why these lodges are outperforming in membership. They could be the fact that they're applying for Beacon Grants in the first place, or that they're capable of pulling off an active project. Could speak to stronger leadership, maybe. So let's take a look at this other slide that goes back all the way to 2006, the origins of the Gratitude Grant. And we're looking at three groups here. The blue are lodges that were eligible for Gratitude Grants, but did not apply. That means they achieved the giving goal, but they didn't apply. The green were the lodges that used Gratitude Grants, and the red were the lodges that did not achieve the giving goal and therefore could not apply.
Mm-hmm.
So the green and the blue are the same group, right? They're both lodges that are strong ENF supporters. But the difference between those two colors is one used the Gratitude Grant and the other didn't. And the fact that almost in every single year, the green group, the lodges that use Gratitude Grants, outperformed the ones who didn't, I think speaks volumes. In the past 4 years, they posted membership gains.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty impressive.
That's some pretty impressive historic data there.
Yep. So if Megan and Katie did not motivate you to apply, hopefully these charts and stats do. You can head over to elks.org.cip, and then from the drop-down menu, go to CIP resources. Now in a normal grant year, and again, this is not a normal grant year, we would put out what we call the CIP field guide, which is a really handy resource. We mail 2 to every lodge, and then we have a PDF available on the website that can walk you through each grant component. But because of the funky way we rolled out the CIP this year and steps and as we kind of got our bearings, and we took a different approach. And you will find under those CIP resources the Gratitude Grant Toolkit, the Spotlight Grant Toolkit, and the Beacon Grant Toolkit. Those are the 3 grants that are available currently, and they will give you tips, how to apply, what we're looking for. They suggest safe COVID-friendly project ideas.
Right.
Everything you need is right there.
Real applications that you can look at. It's funny, actually, the CIP field guide was ready to go to print the week that, 3rd week of March. We had to pull it. And say that's not how it's going to happen. So each of the toolkits is adapted to be COVID friendly, and as you said, to make those suggestions and to include the fact that if it's safe to do an active project by being able to wear a mask and be socially distanced and whatnot, please feel free to do that. But if a donation is the safest thing to do, then that's okay too.
So what we are doing this year is we are sacrificing some of our goals. Like, we love the fact that active projects maximize our grant dollars. They're 2.6 times. Every dollar is worth $2.60, thanks to our volunteers attached to the grant projects. That's important to us, but we're willing to put that on the back burner this year. We think the fact that active projects give people something to do, they excite the membership, energize the membership, they attract the notice of our friends and neighbors, they ensure that the Elks get credit for what we're doing. We're putting that on the back burner because what really matters is that we are here during this time to meet the needs in our communities. But we're only willing to do those two things because we want to set all sorts of records this year in how many of these grants we award. And that's where you come in. Like, we need you guys to apply for these grants this year. There's, hopefully we're not going to live in our lifetimes through a greater period of need than what we're seeing right now. We have funds to help. But it only helps if you take if somebody in your lodge will take the time to apply. And again, it could not be easier because we're willing to accept a flat out donation to another organization who may be better equipped to serve the community during this time of COVID than we are. That's okay this year. What's important is that we put that money to work in your community to help your friends and neighbors.
Right. And, not only is it okay, we want you to do that, right? We want you to get this money into the hands of people in your communities who need it the most.
Right. So you got anything else you want to say, Debbie?
Oh, Jim, well, we could go for another half an hour with the things that I want to say, but just a quick reminder about the service scorecard for the Hoop Shoot, right? The virtual service opportunities where you can register for the service scorecard and participate in at least 5 of the 10 activities and get that uploaded to us. So you could win a chance to make a $100 donation to a charity of your choice. Post on social media. We want to spread it far and wide. So that, and then again, the MBS deadline, can't forget about that. That is November 15th. So that's coming like a freight train.
Coming up, yeah. Tell the high school seniors in your life.
Right, tell the high school seniors in your life. And obviously, again, just going back to what we've been talking about, the need is great. And the need is going to be great for kids going off to college too, right? Everybody, right. There were at one point 30 million people out of work. It's less now, but still a lot of.
Yeah, when you hear, exactly, it's gotten better. But when you hear about all those people out of work, that's a number and it's a staggering number. But then you start thinking about what that means.
Right.
It means people can't afford to put food on the table. It means that suddenly maybe have to dip into the savings that they had reserved to send their kids to school or whatever. It's a tough economic environment right now for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, right. And then just add some fun, obviously, with our Elk Scholar Fellow. Because we're not able to really gather to do service with our scholars, we're doing virtual scholar programming, including a Halloween party on Friday night that Grace Roebuck will be heading up for us, hosting for us. And there are 36 scholars that have signed up, and they're going to be doing pumpkin carving and dancing to, Halloween music and all that. So a little fun, a little levity in a time that is very stressful and wrought with anxiety for a lot of people. It's important to always, have a little bit of fun in between.
All right. Well, Debbie, we're going to be back in 2 weeks with Mary Morgan from the Veteran Service Commission to talk all about it's Veterans Remembrance Month. So let's talk all about vets on the next episode of the Midday Minute. Just a reminder to comment on this episode with the hashtag ENF Midday to be entered into our drawing to win a $50 soft credit for the ENF funded program of your choice. If you've liked this episode, give us a thumbs up. If not, a thumbs down. Either way, share it far and wide to your social network so we can get the good word out there about the good work the Elks are doing. If you're not already subscribing to the show, hit that button and tap the bell so you'll be notified every time we post new content. Until next time, Debbie, thanks for tuning in, right?
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye and happy Halloween. Go Rays.